Hello and welcome to another episode of the programming course. I hope you enjoyed it so far. So I'm here with another episode. I'm going to talk about libraries today. If we can recall, in a couple of you know, a couple of videos ago, when I was talking about the multi-threading, I just wrote a line like import threading. But what is that import and what is that threading and what it does and why we need to use it? So today I'm going to talk about this situation that you want to create a huge application like Google or Facebook or any huge gigantic project which has a couple of million lines of code, and you just might want to organize your code because if you want to write everything into a single file, it would work, but it would be a huge disaster to someone who wants to read, modify, add something, or debugging things. It would be a huge uh, pain to read all of that line and understand what does what. But if you organize everything into single files, if perhaps it has a bug in searching users, it in the other programmer could just check the files related to that matter, and that reduces the amount of effort that he is going to put, and that actually counts at the larger project. You might want to, or in other words, you have to, you must organize your code. So how we can use that in Python? I mean, what is the situation? Imagine if you want to have your, we have another file called library, whatever. I'm going to call it libs or my underline lib.py. So that's it, it has nothing. And I'm going to define a few variables here. For example, my secret password is like the Taliban's administration of defense. Maybe the cyber security administration. I don't recall the position. I just read the news. Uh, like my sensitive, my sensitive what? My sensitive thing is this is really sensitive. I don't want to use that in other programs, so I can say just import mylib, because the mylib is actually next to this file. It's just sitting there, it can't find it, so we don't have to mention that py file because it automatically knows that it is a py. But imagine if we had a directory called libs, whatever, it could be any name, and we had a file like silly lib.py, and if we wanted to add this to our project, we had to write import mylib dot no, mylib is the file, the libs dot sillylib. So you have to indicate if it is in a directory or not. So in that case, because it's not in a directory, it is actually the next to it, I'm going to keep it like this. And the secret passwords and stuff, let's put it in the sillylib actually. And if I print what was that, the secret password, you might see that it cannot find anything because it's not defined. So what is the reason? Because we have actually imported them. Yeah, we have imported the mylib, but not its contents. If you want to use its contents, you have to say mylib.secret password. It indicates that this variable we are looking for is in which actually libraries. And if you do not import any libraries, you cannot use any variables inside them. So if you use that, you might see that this is a password of this, but not the silly lib. If I modify that and I rerun that previous code, you might see that nothing has changed. What about the silly lib? It cannot find silly lib because there is no silly lib here. This is libs, that's silly lib. So imagine a scenario that you have multiple directories. Inside each one you might have a couple of files or another directories even. It could be a really long names for that. You might want to shorten them, and so you can use as, and you can rename that. I'm going to say silly. So instead of libs, that silly lib, you could just say silly. And the silly is a new name for libs, that silly lib, things like that. And this actually works. What if you just wanted to use the secret password itself? So in that case, you had to say from mylib import everything. That actually pulls every variable inside mylib. But if you wanted to just mention a specific variable, you could just say import secret password or my sensitive thing. You could just use comma to pull multiple things from a library into your program. So if I run that, you can see that I have my secret password and my sensitive thing out of that library here. So that's the way we can use variables and the contents of other Python files in our project. So let's remove this nonsense and use a real a beneficial things. Imagine we have student.py which contains a class called student, and it has some properties like name at the type of string, age with the type of integer. I'm not going to too much of a difficulty here. So we have this class here, and let's start using this in our main program. So I'm going to say import student. So every time I want to use that class, I have to mention a student.students with the capital S, which is the name of the class. That's actually the reason I use the capital S for the class to distinguish these two to each other. So to avoid this, you can just say simply from a student import student. So that actually imports the class, not the whole file. So if you had two classes, you could just use comma and the second class, whatever. Let's create some student. S1 is student. If we hadn't that from, we must use like student. And the first one is the file and the second one is the class. So S2 is another student. They both might have some age like 16, and S2 is 17. S1 that name might be like John, and S2 that name might be like Mary, and just print them. Print S1 and S2. Just like normal programs, it works. Maybe to use attribute instead of the object itself. So it works just like every other uh, way that we had defined at the student class. But if you had any trouble with the student, you just wouldn't had to look the whole program for the class. You know, there is a file maybe in the library directory called a student. You could just edit that file and the program works perfectly at that point. So that's actually how libraries work, and libraries are only piece of the code that might contain some classes, functions, variables, stuff like that, and you want to use them in your real final program. So, uh, in other words, the libraries are a helpful tool to help you to organize your code and break it into smaller segmentances, smaller chunks, to put them together using this from and import, and maybe only import. And it actually works perfectly well, and that basically copy pastes your it doesn't copy paste, let me show you. So imagine after that class, if I run this file independently, this is an independent file. If I run that, nothing happens. If I write print like hello world, come on, world. If I run this now, it says hello world because it has a hello world thingy here, and the classes are not executional. So we have the class, uh, it's a part of the code, but we haven't used it, so it does nothing except printing hello world. But we actually import it here. So if we run that code here, it says hello world. What if we just want to write some tests here, and we don't want to actually run this in our main application, because this is our main application, and if I run this, it says hello world because the hello world is from here. It basically copy pastes everything from here to there. So this line has been copied here and executed, so you can see the hello world here. That's basically what is happening. But to avoid this printing in your, when you run this program as an independent program, there is a trick, and that's actually very funny. So I'm going to print something called name underline underline name underline underline. So if I run that, it says underline underline main. Weird. So let's get back to our real program and start that, and it says student instead of main. So what happened? Actually, that's actually you know very funny, because your program is actually a library thingy which has been imported into the Python core and then executed. That's the reason you have some functions just right out of the box, like print. You never defined print, but you have it because the print is actually has been defined in the Python's core, and your program just copy pasted into the Python's core and then executed. And in that case, you have a global variable called underline underline name underline underline, which indicates your program's name. If your program has been executed independently, if that is the very script that has been given to the Python, like in this case, untitled 1.py, which is our program here. If it is that, this variable of name might be associated with the value of main, which is the main file, like the previous execution, which I gave the student file directly to the Python, and the variable name just had the main. And when I kind of executed that as a library, it just return the name of the file. So with that trick, we could detect if the file is running independently or this file has been called from an outside or as a library. So you just simply can say if the name is equal to underline main underline then print hello world. So if I clear the console and I just run this again, I only see the John and Mary because that's what I was supposed to see. But if I run this student independently, it says hello world. So that's actually a good trick to write some tests inside your libraries and only be able to execute them if you run your library independently, not from other programs. So you might just check if the name is main. If it was, so this file has been called independently or directly, and that's how you could just detect that. So I hope you enjoyed it, and if you ever saw this line is very common. If you look at the Python project in GitHub or other places, this line is actually very helpful and very famous among the Python community or the Python programmers uh, community. But right now you might understand why they wrote that, and if any file had this, that means you can kind of use this file as a library and just import it into your main project and use them whatever way you want to do. So I hope you enjoyed it so far. If you had any questions, just let me know in the comments. I would answer any of the questions from the comment section into another, the next episode, maybe, whatever. So there's nothing to say here. I'm going to finish the video here. So take care, and I will see you in another episode. Later.